The alarm screamed before anyone could breathe. Red lights flashed across the bridge, painting every face in warning colors. The ship groaned like a dying beast, metal twisting under invisible pressure. Captain Mara Hale stood at the center of the chaos, one hand gripping the rail, her other steady on the console. "Atlas," she said, voice calm but sharp. "Report." The ship's AI replied, smooth and almost too calm. "Catastrophic success, Captain. The full drive has overperformed." "Overperformed? We jumped, yes. But not where we should be. Star positions do not match any known configuration. Conclusion, we are completely lost." Silence cut through the noise for half a second. Then more alarms joined the chorus. Oxygen imbalance, power drain, hull breaches. The Wayfarer was dying by inches. Sergeant Rio Jean was already at weapons, his expression stone. He never spoke unless he had to. His eyes flicked to the captain, then back to his screens. "Running diagnostics. Weapons are half dead." Dr. Elias Crow looked pale under the flashing red. "We've never seen readings like this," he muttered. "Gravitational patterns don't make sense." "They make sense to me," Pilot Jax Nash called out, hands flying over the helm. "It means the universe just spat us somewhere it doesn't like." Before anyone could respond, the ship shook again, hard enough that panels fell from the ceiling. Sparks rained down. Atlas spoke once more. "Multiple gravitational anomalies detected. Artificial signatures. 3 ships approaching fast." Mara's jaw tightened. "How fast?" "Faster than we can run, even if our engines weren't broken." On the main screen, space rippled, and 3 sleek shadows emerged, black, curved, silent. They moved like predators that didn't need to rush. The crew stared. None of their databases recognized the design. "They're hailing us," Crow said quietly. The main display flickered to life, revealing a tall figure framed in cold silver light. His skin shimmered like metal, his eyes black and endless. His voice was deep and measured. "I am Lord Admiral Vorgan of the Strike Imperium," he said. "You have entered sovereign space in a vessel made of, is that steel?" Laughter echoed faintly from somewhere behind him. Mara stood tall. "Captain Mara Hale, United Earth Ship Wayfarer. We suffered a drive malfunction and require assistance." The alien tilted his head slightly, studying her as if she were a new species of insect. "United Earth," he repeated slowly. "A new species indeed. Crude vessel. Curious technology. You fold space without hyperlanes. You will surrender your ship and its drive for examination." Mara's voice stayed even. "That won't happen. You misunderstand. It wasn't a request." The channel closed. For a moment, the only sound was the hum of damaged systems. "They seem friendly," Nash muttered. Mara ignored the joke. "Atlas, options. None that involve survival probabilities above 3%. Then we'll make our own." The Wayfarer lurched as Nash pushed the engines to their limits. The stars blurred as they turned hard, racing toward a nearby asteroid field. Behind them, the alien ships followed, sleek and silent, closing fast. "They're playing with us," Crow whispered. "Let's make it hurt to play," Mara said. "Rio, charge the point defenses." "Only 2 working," he replied. "Then make them count." The asteroids filled the viewport, giant rocks tumbling through black space. Nash's hands danced over the controls. The ship twisted between them like a broken bird fighting gravity. One asteroid scraped the hull, peeling metal like fruit skin. The noise was thunder in the airless dark. "They're still on us," Crow shouted. "Detach the cargo module," Mara ordered. "That's half our supplies." "Do it." Rio hit the release. The cargo module spun free, and one of the alien ships slammed directly into it. The explosion bloomed like a dying star. The shockwave hurled debris in all directions. For a heartbeat, the aliens lost their target lock. "Now, Nash." He grinned, teeth white in the red light, and pushed the engines past the red line. "Hold on." The Wayfarer dived into the gravitational pull of a gas giant, using its mass to slingshot away. The hull screamed. Systems flickered. Every gauge went into the red. But when the shaking stopped, only silence filled the bridge. The pursuing ships were gone. Atlas spoke again, quieter now. "We have escaped immediate pursuit. Damage report, extensive. Drive core unstable. Containment failing." Mara's hand tightened on the railing. "Can we repair it?" "Not fully." Beck's voice came from engineering, heavy with fatigue. "The core's half melted." We can patch it, or repurpose it. Repurpose. There was a pause. Then Beck said softly, "We could turn the fold core into a weapon." The bridge went silent. Even the alarms seemed to hesitate. Crow looked horrified. "You mean make it explode?" "No. Make it focus." Mara stared at the display where 3 alien ships had vanished into the stars. "Do it," she said finally. No one argued. The Wayfarer drifted into the safety of the nebula ahead, a storm of violet gas that hid them from all scans. Behind them, the darkness of the galaxy waited. Somewhere out there, the Strike Imperium was laughing. They wouldn't be laughing for long. The Wayfarer drifted through the violet clouds of the nebula like a wounded bird hiding from hawks. The engines hissed quietly. Panels flickered. The crew worked in low light, afraid even to breathe too loudly. Out here, radio silence was survival. The nebula's beauty was unreal, gold and purple swirls moving like living fire. But no one had time to admire it. Beneath the colors lay storms strong enough to crush metal. It was the perfect hiding place and the perfect tomb. Captain Mara Hale sat in her command chair, eyes on the main screen. She hadn't slept in 30 hours. "Status?" she asked quietly. "Life support stable," said Atlas, the AI, its calm tone a strange comfort. "Power reserves at 40%. Hull integrity, temporary. Meaning if someone sneezes too hard, the ship comes apart." That drew a few tired laughs from the crew, even from Rio Jean, who rarely smiled. They needed it. Down in engineering, Chief Beck was covered in sweat and metal dust. He'd stripped half the lower decks to reinforce the ship's spine. The hum of damaged reactors filled the air. "If we live long enough to see tomorrow," he muttered to himself, "it'll be because duct tape held the universe together." Dr. Elias Crow entered, holding a datapad. "You're turning our propulsion core into a bomb," he said flatly. Beck didn't look up. "A weapon, not a bomb. Call it whatever you want. It's suicide." Beck finally glanced at him, grease on his face, eyes wild but alive. "You want to die slow when they find us? Or die fast doing something that matters?" Crow hesitated. The moral line between the two was fading every hour they drifted in the nebula. On the bridge, Jax Nash leaned back in his chair, staring at the swirling colors beyond the glass. "They'll come, Cap," he said softly. "Empires don't forget what they can't understand." "They'll look for the drive signature," Mara replied. "But the nebula's radiation will hide us, for now." "How long is for now?" Atlas answered. "Approximately 12 days before their trace algorithms converge on our last jump point." Mara's stomach tightened. 12 days. After that, the Strike Imperium would know roughly where they came from. From Earth. From home. She stood. "We can't let them get that far." Crow entered from engineering, exhaustion etched into his face. "Captain, I've analyzed the Imperium's data we intercepted. They don't conquer worlds, they harvest them. Resources, labor, even biological material." The words hung heavy in the air. Nobody spoke. "So if they find Earth," Mara said quietly, "they won't see a people. They'll see a field to harvest." Rio Jean broke the silence. "Then we hit them first." Everyone looked at him. The stoic soldier never spoke more than needed, but now his voice carried conviction. "If they want to take, we make them afraid to try." That night, no one slept. Beck's team tore into the reactor housing, welding and rewiring under flickering lights. Sparks rained like artificial stars. The air smelled of ozone and burned plastic. The ship vibrated with low, constant pain. In the mess hall, Nash and Crow sat at opposite ends of a metal table, eating ration paste that tasted like cold dirt. "You think this'll work?" Nash asked. Crow looked at his food, not eating. "It'll work. But we might not live to see it." Nash shrugged. Never cared for retirement plans anyway. By day 4, the crew had turned desperation into rhythm. Rio drilled the security team in case of boarding. Beck scavenged parts from every non-essential system. Mara walked the decks in silence, learning the faces she would one day have to remember. Atlas watched her from every camera. "You haven't rested, Captain." "Neither have you." "I don't require rest." She smiled faintly. "Then keep an eye on me. If I fall asleep standing, wake me before I hit the floor. I'll add that to my priorities, right between saving humanity and monitoring the coolant leak." "Good," she said, and kept walking. On day 5, they tested the weapon's first power cycle. The lights dimmed across the ship. Gravity fluctuated. A wrench floated into the air, then fell again. Beck's voice came through the comms, proud and shaking. It didn't explode. That's a good sign. Crow replied dryly. Your standards for success are concerning. It's called progress. Mara allowed herself a single breath of relief. One step closer. One step away from being found. Late that night, she stood alone in the observation deck. The nebula outside pulsed like a heartbeat. She imagined it was Earth she saw out there, a blue world untouched by the cruelty of empires. Captain, Atlas said softly, do you wish to record a message for Earth Command? Mara shook her head. Not yet. Not until we have something worth sending. Understood. May I make an observation? Go ahead. Humans, Atlas said, are remarkably resilient. When faced with extinction, you create hope out of debris. That is statistically illogical. Mara smiled faintly. That's what makes us dangerous. Hours later, the comm broke. The sensors pinged, a faint signal, almost lost in the radiation noise. Contact, Nash whispered. Atlas confirmed. Small vessel. Strike signature. Scouting pattern. Mara didn't blink. All hands to stations. Silent readiness. The crew moved like ghosts, hearts pounding. The enemy ship drifted near, scanning. Its lights passed across the Wayfarer's hull like searchlights across a corpse. Then, nothing. It turned away, fading into the purple storms. Mara exhaled slowly. They didn't see us, Rio said. Not yet, Mara answered. But they will. She looked at the trembling readouts of their unfinished weapon. Her voice hardened to steel. So we finish it first. The Wayfarer had been silent for 3 days, hidden deep in the nebula's glowing storms. Every breath the crew took felt borrowed. Every sound echoed like it might give them away. The air smelled of oil, sweat, and recycled fear. Then Beck called from engineering, his voice crackling through the comm. Captain, we're out of time. We can't finish the weapon without heavy superconductors. The kind we can't make from scrap. Where do we find them? Mara asked. There's a wreck field 2 sectors out, Beck replied. Old battle site. Dozens of derelict ships, mostly Strike designs. If their cores aren't stripped, we might get what we need. Crow frowned. And if the Imperium left sentries? Beck smirked through the static. Then we'll borrow what we need and leave before they remember who owned it. Mara stared at the dark screen of her console. The decision felt like walking into a graveyard with a lantern. Plot a course, she said. We move at minimum power. No signals. No lights. The wreck field appeared out of the void like a frozen battlefield. Thousands of ship hulks drifted in silence, torn open, melted, forgotten. Their shattered hulls gleamed faintly in the light of a dying sun. Nash's voice was hushed. Looks like someone lost a war out here. Or won too long ago to care, Crow added. The Wayfarer coasted between the corpses of warships. Shattered cannons, broken engines, fields of debris. Once mighty cruisers now reduced to steel bones. Beck and Rio prepared the boarding team. We'll take the engineering bay from that strike destroyer, Beck said, pointing at a half-spinning wreck. If we're lucky, the superconductors inside are still intact. Rio checked his rifle, movements precise and silent. Luck isn't real. Preparation is. Mara's eyes lingered on him for a second. Bring them home, Sergeant. Always, he said, and stepped into the airlock. The boarding craft drifted like a shadow between floating wrecks. No engines, no lights, just small bursts from compressed gas thrusters. They docked with the ruined Strike ship and entered through a ragged tear in its hull. Inside, darkness swallowed everything. The walls were scorched and twisted. Bodies floated weightless in cracked armor, frozen expressions hidden behind shattered helmets. Beck tried to focus on the task, his voice steady but low. Engineering deck is down 2 levels. Watch for structural collapse. Their helmet lamps cut thin lines through the dark, revealing the aftermath of something terrible. Captain, Atlas whispered over comms from the Wayfarer. I detect faint power signatures from the wreck. Something's still active. Mara's voice came through instantly. Pull them out. Negative, Beck said quickly. We're already here. Rio led them deeper. The corridor walls pulsed faintly with blue light. Power cells, he asked. Maybe backup systems, Beck said. Or something worse. They reached the engineering bay. Beck's scanner flickered. Got it. 3 superconductors, intact. We pull them. We're done. Rio moved to cover the door. Make it fast. Beck knelt beside the equipment, prying the glowing cores free. The air shimmered faintly as his tools sparked. Then the sound came, a soft metallic click click click, like footsteps in zero gravity. Movement, Rio said quietly. From the shadows beyond the doorway, lights appeared, small red eyes, blinking in rhythm. Drones. Dozens of them. Their armor was scarred but still lethal, their weapons humming to life. It's a defense grid, Beck hissed. Autonomous. Rio raised his weapon. Then let's remind them we're not ghosts yet. The corridor lit up in fire. Pulse rounds cut through the dark, slicing drones apart in bursts of light. The impact rocked the deck. One drone's plasma bolt tore across Beck's shoulder. He cried out, spinning away. Rio dragged him behind a console. You good? Not dying yet. Beck shouted back, clutching the superconductors. Then hold them tight. On the Wayfarer, Mara stood frozen before the sensor display. Atlas, status. Enemy drones active on Deck 5. Combat engagement in progress. I calculate a 32% chance of successful extraction if we intervene now. Then make it 100. Prepare the pulse beacon. She slammed a control switch. Outside, the Wayfarer powered up a short, sharp burst of radiation. A pulse meant to confuse sensors. The nebula around them flared white. Inside the wreck, the drones twitched, confused by the interference. Rio seized the moment. That's our cue. Move. They raced through the collapsing corridor, sparks showering as energy conduits ruptured. Debris floated like ghosts in their wake. The team leapt through the docking tunnel, and Beck slammed the hatch shut just as an explosion tore the derelict apart behind them. The boarding craft launched into the nebula, drifting toward the Wayfarer's silhouette. Mara watched the small dot approach. Her chest tightened. Come on. Come on. Then Atlas reported softly. Docking successful. Cheers broke through the bridge. When the airlock opened, Beck stumbled through, bleeding but grinning. He lifted the glowing superconductors like trophies. Told you I'd get them. Mara smiled despite herself. Next time, try not to almost die doing it. No promises. Later, as the crew rested, Mara stood in the observation bay, watching fragments of the wreck field drift like falling stars. Crow joined her, silent for a long time. You realize what that place was? He said finally. A graveyard of species the Imperium destroyed. She nodded. Then we'll make sure humanity isn't one of them. Crow looked at her. You think one ship can stop an empire? Mara's gaze stayed fixed on the nebula. No, but one ship can make them afraid. The superconductors from the wreck field glowed like bottled lightning, their faint hum echoing through the Wayfarer's wounded halls. The crew watched as Beck carried them to engineering. 3 rods of shimmering silver that could decide the fate of an empire. He set them gently on the work table. There, he whispered. The heart of the gun. Dr. Elias Crow stared at the cores as if they were venom. You're not building a weapon, he said quietly. You're building extinction. Beck didn't look up. Extinction is what they're bringing to us. I'm just trying to give us a louder voice. Crow's jaw tightened. And when that voice screams loud enough to tear a planet apart, will you still call it defense? Their argument filled the narrow space like static. The hum of the damaged reactor joined the tension, making the air vibrate. Captain Mara Hale entered, her uniform still scorched from the wreck mission. She listened for a moment, then spoke in the tone that ended discussions. Enough. We don't have the luxury of philosophy. Beck, how long until it's operational? Beck wiped sweat from his forehead. If nothing explodes, 8 days. Make it 6. He gave a dry laugh. Sure. Let me just convince physics to take a vacation. In the days that followed, the Wayfarer became a machine of obsession. Every deck was stripped for parts. Every corridor echoed with the hiss of torches and the thrum of cables. Beck's team turned the forward cargo bay into a fusion of science and madness. A ring of reinforced plating surrounding a core that pulsed with unstable light. They called it the cannon, though no one said it proudly. Crow worked beside his brother now, silent and hollow-eyed. He still hated what they were doing, but he couldn't watch them do it wrong. You're crossing every line ever drawn, he muttered one night. Beck didn't stop soldering. Lines are for people who have somewhere safe to stand. Mara stood in the doorway, her shadow stretching across the deck. Gentlemen, she said softly, keep arguing if you must. Just make sure when this thing fires, it hits the right planet. Meanwhile, Nash and Rio drilled the crew. The old weapons were nearly useless, but they trained anyway. They practiced quick repairs, emergency burns, and silent boarding, as if muscle memory might save them when luck ran out. The crew had changed. The laughter that once filled the corridors was gone. They moved like ghosts, efficient, wordless, relentless. Even Atlas, the ship's AI, seemed quieter, its voice slower, as if processing the morality of what it was helping to build. "Captain," it said one night while Mara stood alone in the dark bridge. "You are constructing a weapon that violates every known safety law in human design." "I know," she said. "It will kill you if it misfires." "I know that too." "Then why continue?" She looked at the stars beyond the nebula. "Because the alternative is worse." On day 4, the weapon test began. "Charging containment grid," Beck called, his voice hoarse. The ship's lights dimmed. Energy readings spiked, red lines climbing faster than predicted. "Output stable," Crow reported, though sweat dripped from his temples. For now, the hum turned into a roar, like distant thunder shaking the hull. The forward deck glowed blue-white as gravity itself began to bend. Then, silence. Lights flickered back. Beck grinned. "It didn't explode. I call that progress." Crow exhaled shakily. "One test doesn't mean it works. It means we were lucky." "Luck's part of the plan," Beck said, grinning through exhaustion. "Your plan has a 50-50 chance of vaporizing us. Then we'll pick the 50 that doesn't." That night, Crow came to Mara's quarters. She was staring at the projection of a small blue planet, Earth, floating above her desk. He didn't knock. "You're letting him go too far." She didn't look up. "I'm letting him go far enough to keep that planet alive." "You can't lead by fear, Mara. You can't become what we're fighting." Mara turned to him then, her face pale in the dim light. "If I have to be the monster they fear to save my people, I'll wear that mask." Crow's voice softened. "And when the mask won't come off?" She hesitated, her eyes heavy. "Then history can decide if we were heroes or murderers. I'll settle for being alive." By day 6, the Wayfarer's weapon was complete. It pulsed softly, like a sleeping giant. The containment rings glowed faintly blue, the superconductors alive with coiled energy. Beck leaned against the console, exhausted and trembling. "She's ready," he said. "Once we fire, there's no turning back." Mara looked at her crew, the faces lined with fatigue, grease, and quiet courage. "Then we make it count," she said. "No civilians. No colonies. One target. One message." Atlas spoke again, voice low. "Captain, may I ask what message you wish to send?" Mara's eyes hardened. "Tell the galaxy humanity doesn't need the biggest empire to fight back. Just a reason." Hours later, when the last weld cooled and the hum of the weapon faded to a heartbeat, Crow stood beside Beck. He placed a hand on his brother's shoulder. "It's beautiful," he said quietly. "And horrifying." Beck smiled faintly. "That's what makes it human." The Wayfarer was no longer just a ship, it was a weapon with a heartbeat. The air trembled around the forward decks where the cannon slept, and everyone aboard could feel it. It wasn't just machinery now. It was something alive, something dangerous. But it still needed one final piece, the focusing array. Without it, the gravitational energy couldn't stabilize. Without it, the cannon would tear itself, and everyone on board, into atoms. Chief Beck stood before the holographic map of the sector. His eyes were bloodshot, voice rough from too many sleepless nights. "There's only one place left to get it," he said. "A Strike research facility on the edge of the Lurian belt. Heavily guarded, but small. They use the same focusing crystals for long-range communication. We steal one, and we're done." Dr. Crow folded his arms. "And if we're caught, then we make sure they never report it." Captain Mara Hale nodded slowly. "Prep the ship. We leave in 3 hours." No one argued. There wasn't room for fear anymore. The Strike research base hung in the shadow of a shattered moon. It glowed faintly, a ring of towers and docking spires circling a hollow crater. Dozens of defense drones moved in lazy patterns, confident no one would dare come this close. They were wrong. The Wayfarer glided out of the nebula like a whisper. Every light was off, every engine at half power. Inside, the crew worked in total silence. Only Atlas, the AI, spoke. "Radiation masking successful. They can't see us." "Good," Mara said. "Rio, you're leading the strike team. Beck, you go with them. You know what we need." Beck grinned weakly. "I'm honored to be volunteered for suicide again." Crow stared at him. "Don't make jokes about this." "I wasn't joking," Beck said. The boarding shuttle detached quietly, like a heartbeat skipped in the void. It drifted under the cover of debris and anchored onto the station's underside. Rio cut through the hull with a plasma saw, the edges glowing dull orange in the dark. Inside, the corridors were quiet, too quiet. No guards. No alarms. Just the faint hum of power deep in the walls. Feels wrong, Rio muttered. Everything about this feels wrong, Beck replied, moving to a console. Give me 2 minutes. He linked his tools to the terminal. Symbols and alien script scrolled past, glowing blue on black. He found what he was looking for, a containment chamber near the core. That's it. Level 7. We're close. They moved fast, weapons raised, footsteps soft. The walls shimmered faintly, as if the metal itself was alive. Then they saw it, a crystalline sphere, floating in a stasis field, pulsing with quiet light. The focusing array. Grab it and go, Rio said. Beck reached into the containment field with trembling hands. His tool sparked. Almost there. The light shifted from blue to red. Oh, that's not good, Beck whispered. Trap, Rio barked. Before he could finish, alarms shrieked through the corridors. Red light flooded every wall. Automated turrets unfolded from the ceiling, spinning toward them. Move. The team dove for cover as plasma fire filled the hallway. Beck yanked the array free, hugging it to his chest. Rio fired bursts from his rifle, covering their retreat. Atlas. Mara's voice cut through the comms from the Wayfarer. We've got company. Multiple ships exiting FTL, the AI replied. Strike patrols. 5 minutes to arrival. The Wayfarer burned forward, cutting through the darkness like a blade. Nash gritted his teeth as the ship rattled under sudden acceleration. We're coming in hot, Cap. Docking clamps ready, Mara ordered. The strike team sprinted down the collapsing corridor, Beck clutching the crystal, Rio firing behind them. One of the crew took a hit and went down. No time to stop. Rio's voice was grim. He knew the risk. They leapt through the hatch just as the Wayfarer's airlock sealed shut. Detach, Mara shouted. The clamps released. The ship rolled hard, engines flaring. Plasma bolts streaked past, grazing the hull. Brace, Nash yelled. The Wayfarer dove straight toward the shattered moon, using its debris field as cover. Explosions bloomed behind them like silent fireworks. Beck collapsed on the deck, the glowing array still clutched in his arms. We got it, he gasped. Mara knelt beside him, helping him to his feet. You did good, Chief. He managed a tired grin. Yeah, almost died doing it. Again. Crow appeared behind her, staring at the crystal. His voice was low. You realize what that thing can do, don't you? This isn't just a weapon anymore. It's a god killer. Mara looked him in the eye. Then let's hope we only need it once. The crew gathered in the forward bay as Beck installed the array. The weapon hummed, brighter now, the entire ship trembling like it could feel its own power awakening. Containment holding, Beck said softly. We're ready. Crow stood beside him, watching the core pulse. Ready to destroy a world, he murmured. Ready to save ours, Beck replied. That night, the Wayfarer drifted in silence. Outside, the stars burned cold and patient. Inside, humanity's last survivors waited. Not for orders, not for rescue, but for the moment they would change the galaxy forever. Mara stood on the bridge, watching the sleeping weapons glow ripple across the metal walls. Her reflection looked older, harder. Atlas, she said quietly. Run the firing simulations again. I've done that 47 times, the AI replied. Then do it 48. This time, include human stubbornness in your calculations. Captain, Atlas said, after a pause. You're asking me to quantify the impossible. That's what we're best at, she whispered. The Wayfarer drifted on, a wounded shadow hiding in a sea of stars, carrying a weapon no human should have built, and a hope no empire could understand. The Wayfarer hung in the quiet dark, far beyond the nebula's edge. For the first time in weeks, the stars looked clear, sharp, endless, indifferent. In that silence, every breath felt like a countdown. Captain Mara Hale stood at the center of the bridge, watching the target world drift into view. A scarred, rust-colored planet named Var. According to Imperial records, it was lifeless. According to Crow's encrypted scans, it was anything but. There, he said softly, pointing at the faint signatures on his screen. Power grids. Small installations. No cities, but people. A hidden research base, maybe. Mara's stomach turned. So not lifeless. Not anymore. Behind them, Chief Beck worked at the cannon's console, hands shaking from exhaustion. We could still change targets, Captain. Mara didn't answer. Her eyes stayed locked on the world below. The Strike Imperium had built hidden fortresses on dead planets to test weapons, to dissect technology, and sometimes, to study the species they'd conquered. If this one held even a fraction of that, it was a threat to everything human. We destroy it, she said finally. Crow's voice broke. There might be prisoners down there. There might also be coordinates to Earth in their files. We can't risk it. Silence fell. Everyone knew she was right. No one wanted to be. The Wayfarer descended toward Var's orbit. The ship shuddered under the gravity pull, its hull groaning like a living thing. Nash adjusted the controls with careful precision. Holding steady. Strike sensors will pick us up any minute. Atlas, the ship's AI, spoke softly, multiple ships inbound. 17 confirmed, Admiral-class signatures. 17. Beck repeated. That's not a patrol. That's a fleet. Mara straightened. They're protecting something important. That confirms it. The comm crackled to life. A deep, calm voice filled the bridge, familiar, cold, and cruel. Captain Hale, said Lord Admiral Vorgan. How pleasant to see you alive. I was beginning to think you'd drifted into oblivion. Mara's lips tightened. We found your research planet. Seems you've been busy. Vorgan chuckled. Busy building the future. You should be honored to witness it before your death. Surrender your ship, and I may let your species survive as servants. Beck muttered. Do all his sentences sound like a bad sermon? Quiet, Mara said. Then to the screen, no surrender. The Admiral's smile vanished. Then died quickly. The channel closed. The strike fleet moved like sharks through black water, sleek and perfect. Their plasma cannons glowed. Their gravity nets locked on. Inside the Wayfarer, Beck armed the cannon. Charging now. The ship trembled as raw energy flooded the coils. The lights flickered, gravity wavered. Every screen on the bridge showed the same number, 100%. Crow's hands gripped his console. Captain, if we fire this too close to the fleet, it'll take us with it. Mara nodded. Then we make sure it's worth it. Outside, the stars bent slightly around the ship, the visual distortion of space preparing to scream. Vorgan's ships closed in, forming a wall. Lock target, Mara said. Beck swallowed. Target locked. Fire. For a fraction of a second, nothing happened. Then the universe moved. A beam of light that wasn't light tore out from the Wayfarer's hull, bending space itself. Reality twisted. Gravity held. The beam struck for dead center. The planet rippled, as if trying to breathe. Then cracks split across its surface like veins of molten gold. Holy, Nash whispered. Var shattered, slow and silent. Continents drifted apart. A cloud of burning rock expanded outward in eerie grace. Every strike ship froze mid-maneuver. Their sensors went blind from the gravitational shock. On the bridge, Beck stared at his readouts, disbelief written across his face. It worked. It actually. The floor buckled beneath him. The cannon's backlash tore through the ship. Systems failed. Sparks flew. Containment failing, he shouted. Atlas. Mara barked. Redirecting power now. The AI's calm voice wavered for the first time. Structural collapse in 3 sections. We're venting atmosphere. Seal the decks. Rio yelled. The Wayfarer pitched sideways, spinning out of control. Every crew member grabbed for support as gravity flickered and died. Then, stillness. Only the hum of backup power remained. Report, Mara said, voice raw. Beck slumped against the wall. The cannon's gone. The reactor's fried. We're running on batteries. Crow's face was pale. Life support. 6 hours, maybe less. Outside the shattered viewport, half a planet floated in silence, glowing from within. The strike fleet hung motionless, their perfect formation broken. Atlas spoke softly. Admiral Vorgan's flagship is still operational. They are hailing us. Mara nodded. Put him through. The alien's image appeared, no longer smug, only stunned. Behind him, his crew whispered in disbelief. What have you done? Vorgan asked quietly. Mara stood tall. Her uniform was torn, her voice calm. We showed you what happens when you corner humanity. You destroyed an entire world. You built it first, she said. We just sent it back. He said nothing. The silence between them stretched like a wound. Then his shoulders dropped. You've made your point. Mara's eyes narrowed. Then back off. Vorgan hesitated, then nodded once. The transmission ended. The bridge was dim now, filled with the smell of smoke and metal. Beck sat beside his console, eyes on the drifting pieces of Var. We did it, he said softly. We actually did it. Crow's voice broke. At what cost? Mara looked at both of them, her gaze steady but tired. The cost of being heard. Outside, in the void, the strike ships began to retreat, slow, careful, and afraid. For the first time in the galaxy's history, an empire stepped back. And for the first time in her life, Mara Hale allowed herself to breathe. The universe was quiet. No engines. No alarms. No screams of pursuit. Only the Wayfarer drifting among the ashes of a broken world. Half a planet still burned below them, its glowing core split open like a wound that would never heal. And for the first time since leaving Earth, humanity had the galaxy's attention. Inside the battered ship, every sound was slow, the hum of failing life support, the faint crackle of broken circuits, the heavy breathing of the crew who had survived the impossible. Captain Mara Hale stood at the shattered viewport, watching pieces of Var drift away into eternity. Her reflection in the glass looked older, harder, but somehow peaceful. Behind her, the bridge was a ruin, panels melted, wires hanging like torn veins. Atlas, she said softly, status. The AI's voice came, quieter than usual. Reactor destroyed. Core systems offline. Oxygen supply limited. We are alive for now. Mara smiled faintly. That's enough. Chief Beck limped onto the bridge, arm in a sling, face pale but defiant. The weapon's gone, he said. And good riddance. Crow followed behind him, tired eyes fixed on the viewport. You just cracked a planet in half, Captain, he murmured. There's no going back from that. I know, she said. But we also stopped them from ever reaching Earth. Crow looked down. You didn't just stop them, Mara. You changed everything. Every species out there will know about this. That's the point, she said quietly. They needed to see what happens when you corner us. A low beep broke the silence. Atlas spoke again. Incoming transmission. Strike Imperium flagship. It's Lord Admiral Vorgan. Mara took a breath. Put him through. The screen flickered. The alien admiral appeared, no longer proud and polished, his armor scorched, his eyes hollow. The arrogance was gone. You should be dead, he said softly. Maybe, Mara replied. But humans are bad at dying on schedule. He studied her face for a long time. Then, with a quiet disbelief that bordered on awe, he said, You shattered a world to send a message. I did what I had to, she answered. Do you even understand what you've done? Yes, Mara said. I made you listen. Behind him, his bridge crew avoided eye contact. None dared speak. The silence of fear had replaced laughter. Vorgan finally spoke, his voice low and unsteady. The Imperium will not pursue you. Not today. You have my word. Mara's gaze didn't soften. Erase all data of our location. No records. No coordinates. No chase. He nodded slowly. Done. Then, almost reluctantly, he added, Your kind will not be forgotten. Good, she said. That was the idea. The screen went dark. For a long while, no one spoke. Only the faint vibration of the dying ship filled the air. Beck leaned back, eyes closed. We're out of power, out of fuel, and out of miracles. Crow looked at him. Maybe we've had enough miracles for one lifetime. Mara sat down in her chair, the one spot on the bridge that still felt like command. Atlas, she said softly. How long can we keep life support? Approximately 5 hours at current consumption rates. Then let's make them count. She straightened. Open all channels, broad frequency. Record. Recording, said Atlas. Mara spoke slowly, her voice steady despite the smoke and flickering lights. This is Captain Mara Hale of the United Earth ship Wayfarer. We made first contact with the Strike Imperium. They demanded our surrender. We refused. They threatened to take Earth. We showed them what it means to face humanity. She paused, letting her words hang like a heartbeat in the void. We may not survive this day, but we did what humans always do. We built, we bled, we fought for each other. And if anyone hears this, remember, we are not invaders, we are not monsters. We are survivors. And we never, ever give up. The transmission ended. The silence after it was deep and holy. Hours passed like minutes. The crew rested at their stations. Rio sat with his back to the wall, weapon across his knees. Nash hummed softly to himself, fingers tracing invisible flight paths on his console. Crow stared at the broken stars and whispered, "They'll tell stories about us, won't they?" Beck chuckled weakly. "Yeah, and half of them won't believe it." Mara smiled, closing her eyes for a moment. "That's how legends start." Then, from the darkness, Atlas spoke again. "Captain, I am detecting movement." Mara's eyes snapped open. "Enemy ships?" "Negative. Unknown vessels, approaching fast. Scans suggest human configuration." The crew froze. "Earth Command." Nash whispered. "Possibly. Long-range exploration fleet." Mara stood, heart pounding. "Open comms." Static crackled, then a voice, broken, distant, but unmistakably human. "Wayfarer, this is the Odyssey. We picked up your signal. Hold position. We're bringing you home." Beck laughed, a sound half joy and half disbelief. "They actually heard us." Mara exhaled, her shoulders finally relaxing. "Atlas," she said softly, "tell them we're ready." Outside, the stars shifted. A fleet of silver ships glided into view, human markings glowing faintly across their hulls. They surrounded the Wayfarer like guardians. Inside, the crew stood together in silence, watching Hope approach through the wreckage. Crow whispered, "We broke a planet and somehow found our way home." Mara looked at the shattered world one last time. "Not broke," she said quietly. "We lit a fire. And now the galaxy knows we're here." As rescue lights flared against the Wayfarer's hull, Atlas recorded one final entry. Humanity faced the abyss and spoke back. The stars listened. And for the first time in galactic history, the predators learned to be afraid.